Any other leader would have gotten offended that, are you trying to say that there's a difference between us and me? But Rasulullah did not.
When you have a strong ego in the sense that you need to defend yourself, to defend your role, to defend your position, well, the examples that Shaykh Bilal just gave us couldn't be there, couldn't apply, because you wouldn't accept the advice or anybody else just because that would threaten your position, would threaten your ego.
Welcome back. We discussed various aspects of energy, the energy with which leaders can thrive in times of change, in times of uncertainty, and allow their organizations or people that they work with to become the best versions of themselves. Of course, we know our beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ allowed people to become the best versions of themselves. These leaders then went on to transform thousands, millions of lives, and of course, their lessons continue until today. Shaykh Bilal Ahsan, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Omer.
Shaykh Bilal, we've been discussing leadership, various aspects of leadership. Would you say that our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when it comes to leadership, personified all of those various aspects that Dr. Danilo Simone has spoken about?
Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the creator of all of us. When He created humans, He created them as the best of His creations. Of all the things, of all the beings that He has created, He created humans as the superior among everybody else. And hence we were given the title of Ashraful Makhluqat. And then for the humans, there had to be a role model, which had to be the perfect example of what the maximum potential a human being can achieve in all aspects of being a human, be it the human body, the best way it can be used, be it the emotions that a human emit and the emotions that affect everybody around that human being, be it the way that human thinks, the clarity of thought, the ability to take decisions in the toughest of circumstances, the ability to transform an emotional crunch into an analytical thinking, or be it having a clear vision, and then not only having a clear vision, but the capacity to live through to achieve that vision, to stick to that vision no matter what circumstances are. That model had to be given or presented to the people so that they can then emulate, learn, and follow. And that model is the life of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was very thought-provoking what Dr. Danilo just shared, and I'm very inspired to hear that now our science is catching up with all these breakups of what the human capacity as a leader can be or should be. But subhanAllah, 1400 years ago, when there was no such science to define 4 dimensions of leadership, for there to be a body set, a heart set, a mind set, and a soul set, there was just one individual who in his day-to-day dealing, in a very simplistic life that he was leading, in a very small group of people who he started with to lead, which then turned into a huge nation in itself, he showed all aspects and many more that the science is yet to learn through his profound leadership.
One of the aspects, Shaykh Bilal, we've studied, and Dr. Danilo mentioned, this ability to work and inspire others. That began with the understanding of one's own emotions, own strength, and then of course to be able to recognize the strengths of others. Of course, there's aspects of forgiveness, empathy, listening, trust building that went into this heart set. Of course, strategic thinking, which we've spoken about many times, and in this series we'll continue to talk about the incredible strategic thinking of our beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. We know that everything from Dastur Medina to then the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, all the way to Fatah Makkah, and all the Ghazwat and all the things that we study, there's clear signposts of strategic thinking that we see all across his life. And then of course there's the spiritual dimension as well. I'm curious, Shaykh Bilal, in your study in various aspects, what would you say are some of the things our Prophet ﷺ allowed his people to to become. We know, for example, that if somebody had an opinion, and our Prophet ﷺ had already made a decision on something, of course, he was the leader of all leaders, but yet the humility with which he was able to listen to people and to be able to allow his people to give them advice and mashwara, and at sometimes this mashwara worked, as we have numerous examples. What would you say, Shaykh Bilal? Are these the aspects of leadership that you study in the seerah of our beloved Prophet?
This and many, many more examples. So the essence of Rasulullah's leadership was him being a humble soul. He, throughout, whilst there was a clear understanding among the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala ajma'een that Rasulullah is the Prophet of Allah, he receives divine revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that tells him that what needs to be done and what should not be done. At the same time, Rasulullah kept on emphasizing that he is just a human being. And whenever it was a decision that he had to take on his own, he did not rely on his own capacity to think, but rather he took a consultative approach of getting the suggestions from his companions, and whoever, based on their experience, past experience, or their understanding of certain matters, gave the right advice, Rasulullah open-heartedly accepted it. One example that is coming into a mind right now was a Sahabi in the Battle of Badr. And the reason I'm giving this is because this continues into certain time afterwards as well, and it just goes to show how Rasulullah was consistent. So this Sahabi, Sayyidina Hubayb radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when Rasulullah reached the battle ground, he decided that this is where we will set up our camps. So Sayyidina Hubayb radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he came to Rasulullah and he said, Ya Rasulullah, is this something that you have decided on your own, or have you been guided divinely that this is where we should be? Now, Rasulullah, any other leader would have gotten offended that, are you trying to say that there's a difference between us and me? But Rasulullah did not. He very openly said that this is my own decision. And then the Sahabi, knowing that Rasulullah would be open to and he welcomes the suggestions of others, openly said that, Ya Rasulullah, in my opinion, if we move our camps from this place closer to the wells, we will not only be able to cut the water supply, we will be more strategically placed to carry out an attack. Rasulullah welcomed his suggestion, moved the camps closer to the wells, and that proved as effective because they managed to cut the water supply and were in a better position to attack. Now, the reason I'm giving this example is that this is not where it ended. 6 years after, in the Battle of Taif, the same Sahabi, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he suggested again to Rasulullah that, Ya Rasulullah, I believe that we should position our forces in this and this manner. Now, one could say that in Battle of Badr, this was the first battle that the Muslims were about to carry out. Perhaps Rasulullah's military leadership wasn't as polished, and therefore, he took the advice of one of his soldiers. And now, 6 years down the lane, when he has done so many battles, have conquered Makkah already, he would be, he would be offended that now somebody is coming and giving me a suggestion. No, Rasulullah was equally open, took the suggestion as it was given, and praised the Sahabi for what he gave. So that's just a very small example of how Rasulullah was always open to and consultative and managed the emotions very effectively.
Simone, of course, when we look at the ability of leaders to be able to gain from the knowledge and from the energy of those that surround them, you've studied leadership for years. Would you believe that these traits are exceptional for leaders to have? It allows them to be so much more than themselves when they take the participative, inclusive approach.
I think this is the big shift that it's happening in leadership. We were used to have in the corporate world leaders that were defined strong by the strength of their ego. And when you have a strong ego in the sense that you need to defend yourself, to defend your role, to defend your position, well, the examples that Shaykh Bilal just gave us couldn't be there, couldn't apply, because you wouldn't accept the advice or anybody else just because that would threaten your position, would threaten your ego. So what is happening is organizations all over the world are looking for more and more for leaders that are able to go beyond their ego. And that's why the access to a certain level of emotional intelligence and certain levels of spiritual intelligence is so important, because without those levels, without those intelligences, it is very hard to go beyond your ego that will in some way resist. So now the point is, how can you do that? How can you really nurture and nourish those level of intelligence in order to reach that point?
As we continue these series of discussions, we'll go deep dive into psychology, into neuroscience, all of those various aspects which are playing a bigger and bigger role in leadership and personal development. Of course, Seerah, science, and leadership is at the heart of transforming not only an individual, whoever is listening, but also for them to be able to influence their family, their friends, their organizations as managers and leaders, so it can just change the way we work, the environment with which we operate in, and of course allow us to thrive as individuals, as families, and as an ummah. We look forward to our next episodes where we go deep dive into body set, heart set, soul set, and mindset with an understanding of how this is all linked to leadership and Seerah. Assalamu alaikum.